Hello, everyone. My name is Alex. I'm coming to you from Stream Media in beautiful Miami, Florida. So, welcome to another episode of Tech Tango. So, I was planning today's podcast, and I really wanted to do something that was completely different than something that I've ever done before. This is still kind of a new podcast, and I know that I really love that it's all about technology, but I kind of wanted to switch it up today. And a fun fact about me is I love true crime. I love conspiracy stories, conspiracy theories, like anything like that. So I spent some time trying to find an interesting true crime story that ties into technology. And I actually ended up on Reddit, and I was just kind of like spiraling into the internet. And during that journey, I came upon a really interesting article from The Verge, which I love, about a new documentary film called A Glitch in the Matrix. I was like, okay, this is perfect. It has to do with technology, conspiracy theories, movies, documentaries, like everything I love, right up my alley. So I thought, all right, why don't I just take a few minutes to kind of talk to you today about this movie and this theory. And then I thought it would be fun to read a couple like glitch in the matrix stories that I found that I really loved on Reddit and just kind of have fun with it. So A Glitch in the Matrix is a brand new documentary that focuses around the simulation hypothesis, which is the idea that a lot of people have, that our reality is actually artificial. Like our reality is basically completely made up. And it really poses the question in this movie or / documentary, what if we are living in a video game? And the film interviews and talks to people who take this idea very, very seriously. So this movie is made by director Rodney Asher. If you don't know who he is, he created the film Room 237, which focused on a lot of different theories behind the movie The Shining, which is super interesting. So A Glitch in the Matrix focuses on, again, the simulation theory, and it actually includes discussions with Elon Musk as they talk about the natures of reality and kind of dissect and open up this simulation theory and ask questions about, is this really possible? So for those who are still a little bit confused or maybe don't know, the simulation theory basically questions our human life as we know it, and it poses the thought that we are, for a lack of a better term, aviators living in a simulated game. And it includes the thought that there are different realities that can cross over each other, and these are called glitches. And that's kind of how you hear people talk about stories about like, oh, a glitch in the Matrix, where they see something crazy or unexplainable that just doesn't make sense. And then they'll say, oh, well, it's probably just a glitch in the Matrix, because whether it's a joke or not, the thought behind that saying is we're living in a simulated artificial world where things really aren't as they seem. So I have a couple stories that I found, and these are based on people's personal experiences with glitches. Now, I'm not saying in any way, like I'm not claiming on this podcast that this theory is true, or if these stories are 100% real. I'm just going to be reading what other people wrote. But what I am going to say that if these people are telling the truth, it definitely raises some questions. So I have 3 and I'll try to make them quick. So this story I found on Reddit, and their username, to give them credit, is Kill All Extremists, which has nothing to do with me. That's just their username. So, okay, moving on. All right, so here's the story. This happened about 15 years ago. I called my friend up and he wasn't at home, so I left a message on his answering machine. Hey, I said, it's me. Sorry, I missed you. I'll call you later. Bye. And then I hung up and left the house. I made no other calls. Later that day, he called back and he said to me, "Wow, that was quite a message you left. Who was that girl you were talking to?" I was like, "What are you talking about? I wasn't talking to any girl." Well, as it turns out, the message didn't end after I said bye. I had to go over to his house and listen to this message a few times. After my initial message that I just quoted above, there was a slight pause and it continued on for another 30 to 40 seconds or so with me talking to some girl. It was my voice, but a conversation I never had with a girl whose voice I didn't recognize. You could compare it to the message I know I did leave, and the two voices were indistinguishable. Not just the voice, but, the talking mannerisms. It was my voice. Also, references to my occupation and activities were the same. Basically, in this conversation, I was talking to this girl about going skiing, but I had to go down to my shop and work on a car first, which totally correlated to me. Then the message just stopped. It was recorded on one of those digital answering machines that recorded the message to a chip, so there was no tape I could have taken and analyzed, unfortunately. Also, neither I nor my friend had party lines, so that's not an explanation. It was very, very freaky. I can't explain it. My thought is I may have connected to an alternate universe through a telephone answering machine. Yeah, I read this and I was definitely freaked out. Again, I'm not claiming that this is real or that it's not, unless this story is completely made up. To me, that sounds like pretty legit type of situation that could happen where there's no explanation except if you believed in this theory where there's glitches or we live in alternate universes that kind of cross into each other, which some people have a copy of you like in a different timeline that's simultaneously living the same time as you. So maybe, according to this guy, he says that he connected through the alternate universe through that telephone answering machine, which is also another very common theory that different technologies can be portals to different alternate universes. All right, so now we're going to go to the second story. This is by someone named Shrusi on Reddit, and here we go. One night, my boyfriend and I were just hanging out in our room, drinking and playing video games. There are 4 other roommates in the house, and I was under the impression that everyone was home at the time. I knew there were 2 downstairs watching TV. One of them was already in bed, and the other had his door open with the light on, which usually means he's in his room or downstairs in the office. So it's this girl and her boyfriend are in their room, and then there's 4 other roommates. 2 of them are downstairs in TV. One of them was already asleep, and the other one had his door open, light on. So he's either in the room or downstairs in the office. So, okay. So she says, on one of my bathroom breaks, I hear this roommate, who is the roommate who lives in the room with the open door. She heard him in his room talking and laughing with a girl. I asked my boyfriend if he knew who this guy had over tonight, and he said he didn't, but her voice didn't sound familiar. I kind of laugh and toss around the idea about barging in just to be silly and see what all their laughing is about, but I decided against it, seeing that wouldn't really be a nice friend thing to do, which, okay, that's fair. So I go about my business. All the while, I can still hear the 2 of them talking and laughing. Maybe 30 to 45 minutes pass, and I don't hear anything anymore. I figured they either started doing stuff, or they shut the door, or they just left. I never had any movement. I never heard any movement from outside of his room. So no creaks, no footsteps on the stairs, no doors shutting, nothing. I thought it was weird because usually this guy isn't quiet when he's trekking around, but whatever, no big deal. Another 15 minutes pass and I hear someone coming up the stairs. I guess he must have walked her out or something, because that's something he normally does. Once he got upstairs, he went into his room and then to the bathroom. I decided to catch him on his way back to his room. I wanted to be nosy and see who it was he had in there with him and what they found so funny. He looked at me strangely and told me he was just getting home. He'd been gone all night. I said, dude, there's no way. I heard you in there. You guys were talking and laughing. Are you messing with me? He was adamant that he hadn't been home all night. My boyfriend and I heard his voice clear as day. His laugh is very distinctive too. He's not the type to pull a long con or even make jokes like that. And he and I are very close and close enough that I pretty much know all about his relationships and friendships, so he wouldn't try to be dodgy with me about some new girl. It was truly bizarre. We thought maybe it was voices from outside since he usually leaves his window open, but it was loud and definitely his voice. To this day, I regret not going in there to see what all the ruckus was about. I wonder what I would have seen. Dun, dun, dun. Yeah, that's so interesting to me because I feel like this is a common type of story that I've heard where people are in their house, room, whatever, chilling, and they visibly hear noises or voices coming from a different room in the house. And then whenever they go in that room, the voices usually stop. In my experiences, those stories usually have to do with more like paranormal activity where people think that there's like ghosts or spirits in other rooms. This one I find a little bit different because it's not, I mean, according to the girl who wrote this, it's not like some random like person or group of people making noise. You know, according to the story, her and her boyfriend very clearly heard like the voices of their roommate like in the room, and he, you know, wasn't there. So if we were going along with this whole theory of like a glitch in the matrix, I think my possible explanation would be like there's another universe or, you know, alternate reality where the roommate lives in that room and maybe has a relationship or whatever with this girl, and it just happened to cross over. So I don't know. Nobody really knows. I just found that one super interesting. So this is the last story I have. It's kind of shorter. So here we go. I used to work at a juvenile detention center in a small town. I was working nights, and on this night, I went in at 9 p.m. When I got to work, my supervisor asked me what I was doing there. I said, I work tonight. And he said, but they said you called in sick a few hours ago. I was a bit confused and said, it must have been someone else, and they got the message wrong. Then things got weirder. So after I relieved the guard on duty and settled in for the night, I looked at the message that said I called in. It said that I had called at 6:50 and said that I had gotten sick. And remember, he goes into work at 9. So this was a few hours before. Apparently, this message was left. So I called my wife at home. After 2 rings, a man picked up the phone and said, hello? I did not know what to say for a few seconds. I said, hello? Who is this? This is Taylor. Who is this? The person said. I was shocked. My name is Taylor. I said in almost a scream, where is Anne? He said, Anne's in bed. Who is this? I ran to my car and drove home. My wife was sitting watching TV and was shocked at me being home. I asked her who was there, and she said no one. Later, I found out that the phone line for my area had been knocked down the night before by a storm. This is absolutely the strangest thing that has ever happened to me. Oof, ugh, that kind of like, I don't know, I know I've read it, but that one kind of gave me chills, especially because he said that the phone line for the area was already knocked out. So I'm assuming this was like on a house phone. How could, you know, if the phone line had been knocked down, how could anyone, assuming it was a house phone, like make a call? I don't know. That's super, super strange, especially because the guy on the other line said that his name is the same name as the man in the story, and he claimed that his wife was in bed, but when the guy got home, the wife was just sitting watching TV. So, you know, if we're going along with this theory, then Anne and Taylor have some completely different like life in an alternate reality that just might have crossed over. So I don't know. These are just all speculations. This is just a fun, at least to me, a fun thing to think about. I'm really excited for this documentary coming out. So A Glitch in the Matrix has already premiered. It premiered in the midnight section of the 2021 Sundance Film Festival, and it will be released on Friday, February 5th in theaters and on demand. It'll be released by Magnolia Pictures. I'm pretty sure that this podcast will have already come out by the time that the film comes out. So maybe I'll have to add like a little segment if I have the chance to watch it. But yeah, so that's kind of what I wanted to talk about today. Sorry it was a little bit longer. I just find theories like this so interesting, especially when they have to do with technology and not just like, a spiritual theory, because, technology is something that most people would find a little bit more concrete than believing in spirits. So I don't know. I would love to know what you guys think if you give this a listen. Like, do you think that this is the craziest theory that you've ever heard? Is this something that's happened to you before? I don't know. I feel like we've gone through so many amazing technological changes, like over especially the past 100 years, and it just seemed to like fly by. So I don't know. I wonder if maybe there's a reason for that. If we are living in alternate universes. I don't know. It seems so far-fetched, right? And then you listen to so many stories, especially like if you go on Reddit and you hear people's submissions about crazy things. Like I've heard of people like dropping their keys right in front of them and then they disappear for months and then the keys like show up on their dresser, like just crazy stuff like that, where when you're thinking about it, like you can't really think of any other explanation. So thank you everyone for listening to Tech Tango. If you liked this type of story or topic, please let me know. If you think it was horrible and you would never want to hear anything like this ever again, please let me know that as well. You can email me, alex@streen, that's STREANN.com, and I will see you next week on Tech Tango. Bye-bye.